Matt, you're off by a minute.
I just want to see how it ran, right?
Okay.
But you don't have to do that.
I thought a lot of these questions were good, so I like the ones we got.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Wayne State University's Partrich Auditorium for the special Detroit Mayoral Town Hall meeting. I'm Craig Fahle, your moderator. We're waiting on Mayor Ken Cockrel, who will be out momentarily. In the last hour, you heard Dave Bing lay out his vision for Detroit. Now it is, of course, Mayor Ken Cockrel's turn. And to help us get the facts this afternoon, we have an esteemed panel of journalists. Again, Hewell Perkins anchors the evening newscast for Fox 2 Detroit. And a reminder, this is being, of course, a webcast on Fox 2's website. Also, we have Rochelle Riley, Metro columnist for the Detroit Free Press, and Bankole Thompson, the senior editor of the Michigan Chronicle, is with us once again. A reminder, the audience here in the auditorium will have a chance to ask questions. We will continue to collect questions written on the index cards we've been passing out, and I will ask some of those questions a little bit later in the hour. And a reminder, this event is being broadcast live on 101.9 WDET and also at govaffairs.wayne.edu and Fox 2's website as well. So please hold your applause until the very end. We want to make sure that everyone, not just here in the auditorium, but also out there listening on the radio or on the web, get a chance to hear the candidates' full answers. So thank you very much. Now, Ken Cockrel Jr. is with us. He has worked for several years as a journalist before getting involved in politics. He served 2 years on the Wayne County Commission before becoming the youngest person elected to Detroit City Council in 1997. He was elected council president in 2005 and became mayor last September after the resignation of Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick. Mayor Cockrel, you now have 3 minutes for an opening statement. Welcome.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon. Once again, I'm Mayor Ken Cockrel Jr., and I have served as the mayor of the city of Detroit for roughly about 7 months. That makes me a relative newcomer to the office of mayor. However, I'm not a newcomer to political leadership. The very first elected office that I ever held actually was a Citizens District Council position in my own neighborhood, which is Woodbridge. Woodbridge is a historic district, which is actually just a couple of blocks to the west of here. So obviously everybody here knows where Mathai Field is. The Woodbridge Historic District is just west of Trumbull. And we live there and have lived in that neighborhood, my wife and I, and we're raising 5 children there now. We've been in the Woodbridge neighborhood for a little less than 20 years or so. I subsequently ran for the office of Wayne County Commission, specifically Wayne County Commission District number 5, which basically at that time was the southwest part of the city of Detroit. I ran in 1994, was successful, and took office in January of 1995. Subsequently ran for a second term on the county commission, and I served half of my second term. The reason I only served half of a second term is because I chose to actually run for city council in 1997 because I felt that that would be a place where I could make more of a difference. So I was elected to the council in 1997 and took office in January of 1998. Subsequently ran for re-election in 2001, and at that time was elevated to the position of President Pro Tem. Ran a third time in 2005, and at that point, based on being the highest vote getter in that election, became council president. And I served in that capacity until September 19th of last year, when circumstances surrounding my predecessor forced him to resign, and I had to transition into the role of mayor. Since becoming mayor, I've made my primary focus 3 key areas. First, getting the city of Detroit's financial house in order by proposing a plan as well as a budget for the coming fiscal year that seeks to eliminate a $250 million deficit. Secondly, crime fighting, crime prevention, and also promoting public safety. And we've been doing that through an aggressive program of community policing that involves not only putting police back on the streets from the standpoint of walking a beat, but also opening up new mini stations, doubling the size of the City of Detroit Police Department's scrap metal task force, and also working on plans to reduce police response time. We recently submitted a request also to the federal government for additional officers through the economic stimulus package. Last but definitely not least, our major focus has also been on the economy and on trying to diversify our economy by attracting different types of industry to the city of Detroit and also seeking to create different types of jobs. In December of last year, I opened up an Office of Energy and Sustainability, which has a focus of trying to attract and promote green job development here in the city of Detroit, which will be key for us diversifying our economy and creating different types of jobs as we move into the future. It's been an honor to serve as your mayor for the past 7 months and to serve you in various other capacities for about 14 years. and I'm humbly asking for your vote so that I can continue on as mayor for the rest of this year and then hopefully beyond for the next 4 years. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mayor Cockrel, and we'll now let the fun begin. We're going to have our panel ask some questions of the mayor. Rochelle Riley, you get to start us off this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Craig. Mr. Mayor, the last elected mayor went to jail. The current elected city council is under investigation by the FBI. If you're elected next week, what would your administration do to prevent or to eliminate corruption? And specifically, what would you do differently? Because there is an ethics policy, which apparently no one cares about.
Well, it's a very good question, and I think, frankly, on a certain level, it does point out the problems with the policy. I mean, any law is ultimately just words on paper, and if certain people have it in their mind to be corrupt and to get up to things that they shouldn't be doing, simply having an ethics policy, no matter how strongly worded it is really not going to stop them. I think what it really comes down to, and what I have tried to do in my time as mayor, is to investigate. So we are really in an ongoing process of reviewing what we do in the city of Detroit and how we do it. For example, that includes taking a look at existing contracts to see whether or not these contracts were truly needed. Where did they come from? Are they perhaps the result of somebody's sweetheart deal? If we find, for example, that these contracts are not needed, we terminate them. We have also terminated employees as well who were in jobs that they shouldn't have been in. There was a situation that actually occurred shortly before I took office where there were about 14 people that were shifted into civil service positions, and it came to us actually through anonymous letters that these people really had no business being in these jobs. Subsequently, we investigated that and we found out that that was actually true, that these people had been inserted by the former mayor into these jobs because they were friends and family that he was trying to look out for. So after doing an investigation and determining that they did not meet the civil service requirements, hadn't gone through the proper procedure, hadn't completed testing, we terminated 12 of them. The reason why we didn't do all 14 is because it turned out that 2 of them actually had followed the proper procedure, and because they were now civil service, have to remain in their positions. So it's really an ongoing investigative process directed not only at contracts and procurement, but also looking at employees. And that has to continue. And when you find problem people, then you deal with them.
Michael A. Thompson of the Michigan Chronicle next.
Mr. Mayor, on the Cobo deal, just last week you admitted that you should have been personally involved with City Council on this issue of Cobo. Now, it's a different tone from the position that you took at the onset of pushing this Cobo deal. What happened here?
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, I was always involved. I think what I said last week, which I stand by, is in a retrospect, I could have been more personally involved. And I do hold true to that position. So in terms of what happened, in terms of my position, if that's what you mean, I don't really see it as a shift in position. I mean, the bottom line is I still
You don't
fought.
think it's a flip-flop?
No, I don't think it's flip-flop at all. I still, bottom line, feel that that was a good deal for the city of Detroit. And I still believe that. Was it a perfect deal? Absolutely not. Obviously, a majority council didn't even feel that it was a good deal. And I think where we're at this point, doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me to stamp my feet and cry in my beer about it, but to step back, regroup, recognize what's happened, and then try to move from there. I think in any situation, if you do something and it doesn't quite go the way you want, you have to accept some level of responsibility for it, and I'm prepared to accept that. But I also still stand by the fact that I felt it was a good deal for the city, and we will try to craft one that we think everybody can live with.
I do have a quick follow about that issue and others. There are members of the Detroit City Council who have been known to be petty. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the simple reason for not wanting to do something is not being involved from the beginning, not being able to put a stamp on it before it goes somewhere, whether it's a good idea or not. In hindsight, should you have worked out something with the City Council first before working with the governor and with other leaders to try and get that deal going?
You know, the thing is, it was really impossible to do that on a certain level, A, and B, we have to remember, and I know that there are certain council members who are trying to rewrite history on this issue, but don't buy into that. The fact of the matter is, the Cobo deal, that, at least as it relates to the expansion and so forth, that is the same deal that was before City Council for at least 6 months to a year prior to it being acted on earlier this year.
But had any of them read it?
Well, I had.
Okay.
Now, I can't take responsibility for what other folks read. I can only take